One of the clearest signs that a man sees you as more than a friend is a subtle but unmistakable shift in his energy when you're around. This isn't about charm or flirting in the obvious sense, it's about presence. Psychologically, energy follows attention, and attention follows value. When someone matters to us, we show up differently, more alert, more engaged, more intentional, even when we're trying not to reveal it. You'll notice that he becomes more focused in your presence. He listens in a way that feels active rather than polite. He remembers details you mentioned casually weeks ago. His responses are thoughtful, not automatic. This heightened awareness signals that his mind is tracking you, not just what you're saying, but how you're feeling. Indifference is effortless. Interest requires energy. There's often a shift in emotional tone as well. He may become warmer, more playful, or more sincere. Sometimes it's subtle humor, sometimes it's a softness that wasn't there before. What matters is the contrast. Humans are remarkably consistent with people they feel neutral about. It's attraction that disrupts consistency. When you notice he isn't the same version of himself with everyone else, it's because something in him is orienting toward you. From a philosophical perspective, this shift reflects an internal reordering of priorities. He hasn't decided anything yet, but you've moved up in importance. And when that happens, his nervous system reacts. He pauses before speaking. He chooses words more carefully. He becomes slightly more self-aware. This isn't nervousness in the childish sense. It's respect. He cares how he comes across to you. You may also observe changes in body language. He leans in when you speak. His body naturally faces you, even in group settings. He mirrors your gestures without realizing it. These are instinctive behaviors driven by attraction, not conscious tactics. Long before people articulate interest, their bodies often give it away. What's important at this stage is not to interrogate the behavior or rush to define it. Early attraction is fragile. It thrives in environments that feel safe, not scrutinized. When you respond with calm confidence, engaged but not needy, you allow this energy shift to deepen naturally. Confidence in this context isn't about indifference. It's about self-trust. Many people make the mistake of trying to confirm attraction too early. They analyze every word, replay conversations, or seek reassurance through subtle tests. But attraction reveals itself through patterns, not moments. One attentive interaction means little. Consistent presence means everything. Your role isn't to decode him. It's to stay grounded in yourself. When you don't overreact to attention, you send a powerful signal. You expect to be valued. And paradoxically, that expectation makes attraction safer for him to express. Over time, this shift in energy becomes more pronounced. He shows up more consistently. He initiates more. He remains emotionally present even when circumstances change. This is how interest moves from feeling to intention. The unmistakable sign that a man sees you as more than a friend is the way he begins to prioritize you quietly and consistently. Not with dramatic declarations or sweeping gestures, but through the steady choices that reveal where his attention truly lives. Psychologically, this is one of the most reliable indicators of attraction, because people don't rearrange their time, energy, and focus unless something has real value to them. When you're simply a friend, connection tends to be circumstantial. You talk when it's convenient. You see each other when plans align. But when attraction develops, convenience gives way to intention. He finds reasons to check in. He remembers what matters to you. He follows up on things you mentioned casually, not because he's trying to impress you, but because your inner world has begun to occupy space in his mind. From a philosophical standpoint, this is where interest transforms into care. Care creates responsibility, not obligation in a heavy sense, but a voluntary sense of commitment to showing up. He starts factoring you into his decisions, even small ones. He adjusts his schedule to see you. He chooses you without announcing that choice. And these unspoken choices are often more revealing than words. You might notice that he becomes reliably present. When he says he'll do something, he does it. When you need support, he doesn't disappear. Reliability is not romanticized in movies, but in real life, it's one of the strongest signals of emotional investment. Intensity can be fleeting. Consistency requires intention. At this stage, many people misinterpret subtle prioritization as not enough. They expect constant communication or dramatic pursuit. But early attraction often expresses itself through steadiness, not urgency. He doesn't overwhelm you. He integrates you into his life gradually, naturally. This integration is a sign of sincerity, not hesitation. Your response to this matters deeply. When you receive his effort without testing it, you reinforce a healthy dynamic. When you try to provoke more by pulling away or creating emotional puzzles, you risk destabilizing something that was growing organically. Attraction deepens where it feels safe to do so. This is also the moment for self-respect. Noticing his prioritization doesn't mean abandoning your standards or accelerating intimacy. It means observing patterns and deciding whether they align with what you want. Attraction is mutual when both people feel valued and at ease. Over time, the pattern becomes clearer. Friends show up when it suits them. Someone who sees you as more than a friend shows up because it matters. That difference is subtle, but it's profound. As his interest deepens, another shift becomes impossible to miss. He begins seeking emotional depth, not just conversation. This is where the dynamic moves beyond friendly interaction and into something more meaningful. Psychologically, this matters because people don't pursue emotional understanding unless they're invested in the outcome. Curiosity about someone's inner world is one of the clearest signs that they matter to us. When a man sees you only as a friend, conversation tends to stay functional or situational. You talk about what's happening around you. Work, plans, shared experiences. It's pleasant, but it's contained. When he starts seeing you as more than that, the quality of his questions changes. He wants to know how you feel, not just what you did. He listens for emotional nuance. He remembers the things that affect you. On a deeper level, from a philosophical standpoint, this is the moment where you shift from being an experience in his life to being a person of significance. He's no longer engaging just to pass time. He's engaging to understand. He pays attention to patterns in your mood. He notices when something's off. He checks in without needing a reason. That attentiveness isn't accidental. It's emotional investment revealing itself. You might notice that he creates moments of privacy, even in group settings. He finds ways to connect one-on-one. He lingers in conversations that feel more personal. He doesn't rush to fill silence because silence becomes a space where closeness can exist. These moments aren't dramatic, but they're intimate in the truest sense. They invite presence. Another important sign is how he responds when you share something vulnerable. A casual friend may offer advice or reassurance quickly, but someone who's emotionally invested listens differently. He slows down, he reflects back what he's hearing, he validates your experience before trying to solve anything. Psychologically, this indicates empathy combined with attachment. He's not just responding, he's relating. This stage requires awareness on your part. Emotional depth should feel safe, not pressured. He's inviting closeness, not demanding it. Your role isn't to rush into oversharing or to pull away defensively, but to respond honestly and at your own pace. Depth grows through reciprocity, not through emotional dumping. Many people sabotage this moment by mistaking emotional curiosity for emotional availability. While they're related, they're not the same. The key difference is progression. Is the emotional connection deepening over time? Is he becoming more consistent, more present, more intentional? Or is he collecting emotional closeness without moving forward? Awareness protects you from confusion. Philosophically, this is also a lesson in discernment. Emotional access is valuable. Not everyone who seeks it deserves unlimited entry. True interest respects boundaries while exploring connection. When he honors your pace and responds with care, you're seeing attraction paired with respect. Over time, this emotional engagement becomes a pattern. He checks in when you're quiet, he celebrates your wins, he remembers emotional milestones. These behaviors don't belong to someone keeping things casual. As things move forward, there's another signal that's subtle but incredibly revealing. He becomes consistent in his effort. Not dramatic, not performative, just steady. And psychologically, consistency is far more meaningful than intensity. Anyone can show up once with excitement. Very few people show up repeatedly with intention. When a man sees you as more than a friend, you stop being an option he fits into his life when it's convenient. You become a priority he plans around. You'll notice this in the smallest ways. He follows through on what he says. If he mentions calling, he does. If he suggests meeting, he makes it happen. There's alignment between his words and his actions, and that alignment builds trust without him ever needing to ask for it. From a psychological perspective, this happens because attraction plus respect creates responsibility. When someone values you, they become aware, often unconsciously, of the impact they have on you. They don't want to create confusion or disappointment, so they show up clearly. They reduce ambiguity. Consistency becomes a way of saying, you matter enough for me to be reliable. Contrast this with friendly or casual interest. In those dynamics, effort spikes and disappears. You might hear from him intensely for a few days, then nothing. Plans stay vague. Communication depends on mood. That inconsistency isn't it's lack of investment. When a man genuinely sees you as more, his behavior stabilizes. You may also notice that his consistency shows up emotionally, not just logistically. His tone doesn't fluctuate wildly. He doesn't become distant after moments of closeness. He doesn't punish vulnerability with withdrawal. Philosophically, this is important because emotional safety is the foundation of real connection. Attraction without emotional safety creates anxiety. Attraction with consistency creates intimacy. Another layer of this is how he integrates you into his life. He references future moments naturally, not grand promises, but small assumptions. Next time we do this, you'd love this place. These aren't manipulative hooks. They're signs that you exist in his mental future. His mind is already organizing life with you in it. It's also worth noting what consistency is not. It's not constant texting. It's not pressure. It's not surveillance. True consistency feels calm. It doesn't demand reassurance because it is reassurance. And that calmness is often what confuses people because we've been conditioned to associate intensity with passion. But psychologically, intensity without consistency is instability, not romance. Your role here isn't to test him or overanalyze every message. It's to observe patterns over time. Patterns reveal truth. Anyone can perform interest briefly. Only genuine attraction sustains effort without resentment. And when you stop chasing clarity and start watching behavior, things become much simpler. Philosophically, this stage is an invitation to self-respect. When someone shows you consistent effort, you're allowed to receive it without guilt. You don't need to downplay your needs or shrink your expectations. Consistency meets you where you are. It doesn't ask you to settle. There's another shift that happens when a man sees you as more than a friend, and it's one that many people overlook because it doesn't come with grand gestures. He begins to invest emotionally in your inner world. Not just your stories, not just your surface experiences, but how you feel about them. He listens differently. He remembers what matters to you. And more importantly, he adjusts his behavior based on what he learns. Psychologically, this is a profound marker of attraction. Attention is one thing, attunement is another. Anyone can ask questions. Very few people absorb the answers and let those answers shape how they show up. When a man is genuinely attracted, your emotional responses become data his mind keeps track of. He notices what excites you, what drains you, what makes you feel safe, and what closes you off. And over time, you'll see him navigate you with more care. This shows up in subtle ways. He brings up things you mentioned weeks ago, not to impress you, but because they stayed with him. He avoids jokes or behaviors that once made you uncomfortable. He supports your boundaries without trying to negotiate them away. Philosophically, this is the difference between being seen as entertainment and being seen as a person. One consumes, the other relates. You may also notice that he becomes emotionally available in return. When someone values your inner world, they often begin to open up their own, not in a dramatic oversharing way, but with honesty. He speaks about his fears, his doubts, his past with more nuance. This isn't about trauma dumping, it's about trust. Vulnerability is rarely offered where there is no intention. What's important here is that this emotional investment is consistent with the other signals. It doesn't appear only in moments of intimacy and disappear when things get real. He doesn't lean on you emotionally while remaining distant romantically. Instead, there's balance. He gives as much presence as he receives. From a psychological standpoint, this is attachment forming in a healthy way. Secure attraction seeks connection, not control. It wants to understand, not possess. And that understanding creates a feedback loop. The more emotionally safe you feel, the more authentic you become. The more authentic you become, the more bonded he feels. This is also where many people sabotage themselves by minimizing their own emotional value. They brush off care as just being nice. They ignore the significance of someone adapting for them. But adaptation requires effort, and effort follows value. People don't change their emotional habits for someone they see as interchangeable. At the same time, this is not a call to over-explain yourself or teach someone how to care. When emotional investment is real, it doesn't need coaching. Curiosity drives it naturally. If you find yourself constantly translating your feelings or asking someone to pay attention, that's not attraction, it's labor. The deeper philosophical insight here is this: love begins not with chemistry, but with consideration. Chemistry excites the nervous system. Consideration calms it. And when someone moves from excitement to consideration, it's because you matter in a lasting way. So there's a final shift that happens when a man sees you as more than a friend. And it's the one that ultimately brings everything into focus. He seeks clarity rather than comfort. This is where attraction moves out of ambiguity and into intention. Up until now, you may have seen attention, effort, emotional investment, and presence. But here, something deeper emerges. He no longer wants to live in the gray area. He wants to know where he stands with you, and he wants you to know where he stands with him. Psychologically, this matters because humans avoid clarity only when it threatens something they're not willing to risk. When someone is truly invested, uncertainty becomes more uncomfortable than vulnerability. A man who is just enjoying the emotional benefits of closeness will keep things undefined. A man who wants you will eventually lean toward definition, even if it scares him a little. This doesn't always come as a dramatic declaration. Often it shows up in action before words. He integrates you into his life in visible ways. You're not hidden, postponed, or compartmentalized. He introduces you to people who matter to him. He makes plans that extend beyond convenience. He considers how his choices affect you, not because he's obligated, but because you're already part of his internal scion-making process. Philosophically, this is the move from desire to responsibility. Attraction says, I like how you make me feel. Commitment, even in its early form, says, I'm willing to be accountable for how I show up. That shift is subtle but powerful. It's where potential becomes direction. You may also notice that he invites honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. He asks real questions. He wants to know what you want, what you expect, what you're afraid of. This isn't interrogation, it's alignment. He's not trying to win you over with perfection, but to understand whether the connection can stand on truth. This is also where healthy attraction respects your autonomy. He doesn't rush you, pressure you, or manipulate you into certainty. Instead, he creates emotional safety for clarity to emerge naturally. He's willing to risk hearing something that doesn't benefit him, because living in false closeness feels worse than facing reality. At the same time, this is where your role becomes just as important. Clarity invites courage on both sides. If someone is stepping forward with intention, it's an opportunity to meet that energy with self-respect, not by overcommitting, not by withholding, but by being honest about where you are. Mutual clarity is not about locking something in. It's about standing in truth. From a psychological perspective, this is how secure bonds are formed. They don't rely on guessing games or emotional tension. They're built on consistency between words and actions. When someone wants you, they don't leave you wondering whether you matter. They may not have everything figured out, but they're moving towards you, not hovering around you. And here's the deeper reflection to take with you. Ambiguity is not romance.